I'm going to talk to you today a lot about conversation. So I welcome your questions and your comments, probably not during the formal program, but perhaps at lunch, since we're running a little late. Have you noticed how the word local is on everybody's lips these days? Shop local, buy local, eat local. People want to know where their food comes from. I think you've heard that message a lot today, probably heard that message a lot lately. They want to know who grew it, who raised it, who produced it. In this information age, they still want more information, which I find amazing, and I'm happy to provide. They want to feel connected to the people who make their food. We've noticed that a lot at the Edmonton Journal over the last few years. We've been writing about local food for a long time. But we noticed a real surge of interest, and we wanted to celebrate that and expand and strengthen those connections between consumers and the food that they're interested in eating. Fortunately, ALMA has similar goals, and so Taste Alberta was born. It's a partnership between the Edmonton Journal, the Calgary Herald, and ALMA. Do I have a, there we go. It's an editorial series that appears in the Journal on Wednesdays and in the Herald's Mix section on Sundays. It's part of our regular food sections. And by doing that, we wanted to demonstrate that stories about Alberta food are not just as important as the other stories about food that we're telling in our newspapers, but they're worthy of special attention because they're about local, and that matters to people. I want to thank ALMA, actually, at this moment, for making that possible for us to feed that interest, to really focus on it and commit some resources to it. As today's program says, the more you know, the better you eat. Since the series started in December, we've written about, fish farms, canola, pierogies, beef, lamb, goat, rabbit, cheese, mustard, milk, pork, canola, barley, and in the last few weeks, you may have noticed in our grilling series, which we did in partnership with BT Television in Edmonton and 100 Barn Kitchen, we've featured bison, lamb, beef, and this week, Sturgeon Valley pork, with some fantastic burger recipes. I urge you to try the turkey pork feta one. It's pretty fantastic. The last few weeks of stories have been shepherded by my replacement as editor of Taste Alberta and Food at the Edmonton Journal, Richard Helm, who's here today. I urge you to talk to him and give him your story ideas. And by our advisory committee. There's many of you here today, and I want to thank you too for your contributions, your great ideas that have helped us bring some amazing stories to our readers, stories that they keep telling us, thank you. I didn't know that this was made in Alberta. I didn't know where I could find it. I can't wait to try it. We hear that over and over again. Just quickly, the same content that appears in the Journal and the Herald also appears weekly in the Journal's rural publication Country-Asides. We just repurpose it. It's also on our websites, of course, edmontonjournal.com/taste and calgaryherald.com/taste. That's, oh, there we go. The image doesn't show up, but there's an iPad at my table if you want to have a look at it. We put all the content in our iPad editions, the Calgary Herald and the Edmonton Journal as well. And because we know that mobile devices are increasingly where consumers seek information about everything, but also about food, Taste Alberta is also available on your BlackBerry and your iPhone. And here's a little news tip, nobody knows this. Android, coming soon, maybe in the next couple of weeks. Those funny little ink blot things, I think that's what Richard calls them, you see them in the Edmonton Journal all through our paper, but particularly in our taste section. If you scan that with your phone, and I can show you how if you have a minute, it will store the Taste Alberta mobile site in your phone. And each week we update that with new content, recipes, a link to Alberta producers, usually the ones that are featured in that week's section, links to industry groups like Alberta Pork, or to consumer sites like I Love Bison, which has some fantastic recipes. The websites in particular are meeting our goal to become hubs for information and conversation about Alberta food. I'm really delighted with how this has developed. We've got on the top left there, we've got a calendar of food and wine events across Alberta that anyone can contribute to. That includes you. If you have things going on that you want to tell consumers about, plug them into our calendar. We are happy to have them added. We've built a network of, the middle image there, we built a network of dozens of bloggers across Alberta. They're telling stories about Alberta food every day. They're wildly interested in local food, and they're wildly interested in talking to you. So talk to them. And I'm going to talk a bit more about that later. Through our Twitter accounts, we have a Taste Alberta account, and on my own account, if any of you follow me, you know that I push Alberta food a lot. I like to talk about it. I like to talk about food. I just tweeted about how much I love fat, especially the healthy kind, trans fat. We extend the reach of our stories, though, through these Twitter streams. They're your stories. We're extending the reach of your stories. We're sparking conversation. We're not just pushing out a message, we're listening, we're answering questions. We're asking people, what do you think? What would you do with this prime cut? On our resources page, that's the bottom image there, and it's still under construction, so give us time, we're building it up. I just added pork this week. Darcy will be happy to hear. We're sharing, that's where we link to producers, we link to producer organizations, we archive our stories by food type. So if you're looking for good stories, interesting stories about other people working in your industry or other industries, either for your own interest or to share amongst your networks, that's a great place to go. We put our recipes there, our photos, our videos, it's all there. As with everything on edmontonjournal.com, well, most things, readers, and that means you, can comment on everything that we write. And you can take it, as I said, and share it through your networks. Share it through your Twitter account, through your Facebook page, through your website if you have one. You can do it by email. You can rip a page out of the newspaper. It's crazy. You can photocopy them and hand them out, like the way they used to. Amazing stuff. I've almost forgotten how to do that, along with handwriting. Over and over, as I say, we hear readers saying, thank you for this, and I want more. So I hope that we'll be able to continue telling these stories. As we were designing our strategy for Taste Alberta back in the fall, we did a survey with Donovan in Edmonton here, and in Edmonton and in Calgary. We put the survey out via our email network and on our website through our paper, and the response was unbelievably fierce and furious. Like, we practically had to shut the survey down. We got so many responses so quickly. People want to talk about food. You'll see from this slide that they don't just want to talk about food, read about food. They want to read about food that features people and products and businesses that are local. What does that say? I can't quite read it. It's almost 60% said it was very important to them that the content be local. And a significant number said somewhat important. Also from our survey, 64% say it's important for me to know where my food is grown or produced. I thought that was a good one you'd want to hear. 66% said they're willing to pay more for local food. Most likely for fruits and vegetables. 73% said they'd pay more for local meat. Baked goods, dairy, goes down from there. And why would they pay more for local food? Why do they value local food? Number one, and a very, very strong level of agreement here, they want to support local food producers. That's good news, isn't it? And why else do they want to support local food? Because it's better. They said that over and over again. It's better. You've got them. They want what you're selling. So, how do we make more connections? How do we get the food that they want to the people. What we found with the survey was there was a few sort of stumbling blocks. They told us they want connections. They're looking, but they can't always find you. They said, I don't know where to look. They said, I've tried looking, but I can't find it, local food. They said it's not convenient to find it, to get it, to buy it. And they said it's too expensive, and I don't understand why it costs more. So those are some of the questions that we need to work on, some of the connections that we need to continue making. Interestingly, 67% of the people we surveyed, and we got 3,600 valid responses to this survey. We got hundreds more, but for various reasons they weren't valid. 67% said they check the labels to see where their food comes from. I don't know if you guys noticed this, but that information isn't always on the label and not always easy to find. And if it says it's made in Canada, it doesn't always say it's made in Alberta or produced in Alberta or processed in Alberta. They want that information. They want you to tell them it's made here, and when you do, they will buy it. So we come back to conversations and connections. In journalism, we know that stories are the essential unit of conversation. And by telling your stories, stories about Alberta food, Taste Alberta sparks that conversation. And readers have really picked up on the thread. They're having conversations amongst themselves and a bit with us, more and more all the time. And you can be part of those conversations too. That's one of the things I wanted to talk about today. You can join in these conversations, not just to push your product, because maybe you don't have a brand that's available in grocery stores, but to build stories around your industry. Tell people more about what you grow, raise, produce, how you do it, why it's good. But not just to talk or push out, but to listen, to answer questions. What are people talking about? What do I know that I could contribute to that conversation? Watch the comments on stories in our newspaper, on our website, on other websites. Jump in, get involved. Tweet links to your followers, to your network, when you see a story that speaks to you or that you have a comment on. Share it on your Facebook page if you have one. Share it from your website. And big one here, respond. When people respond to you, respond to them. Because it's a two-way thing, right? Conversation. And as I said, rip a page out of the newspaper, make a copy, share it around. I'd rather you bought more copies, frankly, but you know, photocopiers are good. The point is, get the stories out, share those stories, have those conversations. By doing so, you become a trusted member of a community. A community of interest is the big buzzword you hear in my field these days. And today's world is all about personal recommendation, don't you find? People want to know, what do you think? Where should I go? What should I buy? How should I cook it? They're waiting for that personal recommendation. And you can provide that. I can too. So it's those personal recommendations that are fueling consumer choices right now. Seize that opportunity. It's a great way to build your business, to promote your industry. And I want to thank you again for that opportunity, the opportunity that we've had through Taste Alberta to tell your stories. And I hope that we'll be able to continue doing that. Thanks.